Hello everyone, I'm Anna with the Potomac Bead Company, here to show you how to create this seed beaded ball chain bracelet. And I've got one here on my wrist here. You can see it rolls really nicely and it has a lot of interest to it. Each one of the seed beaded cages or pockets that your beads are going to be popped into has a lot of detail around it. You can see each bead here, you've got several lines of seed beads capturing it in there. And there's just a lot of interest, a lot of different angles running around those beads. And so as you turn it on your wrist, it's just really fun to kind of look at how the pattern progresses. So I'm going to do one for you today in a pink color combination. I have some 6mm, or I'm sorry, these are 8mm. You want an 8mm check glass round, and these are a champagne luster. And then I have two colors of seed beads. I have a galvanized coral here, and then I also have a matte blush that I'm going to use. And those are the only three beads that you're going to use. In addition to the beads, we're going to use our wildfire beading thread. And I have a 0.006 in white so that it will blend well with my colors. And then I'm also going to have some slip and snips and my, my set of pliers close by. And today I'm going to use some of these tulip beading needles. I have an assorted pack here, but I pulled out the largest needle from this pack, and that would be a size 10. So in this project, I'm using a size 10 tulip beading needle. One of the really nice things about this bracelet is that the end here, the last ball in the ball chain, is actually your clasp. So on one end, you've got your last ball of the ball chain, and on the other end, you're just going to have a loop, and that is how you will clasp it. You can do a bracelet with this, like the ones that I've done here, or you can make this even longer and make a really beautiful necklace out of it. So it's up to you. There's a lot of different possibilities. This is a really great pattern that does transfer well to a necklace. Not a lot of seed beading bracelet patterns are easily made into necklaces, but this one would work perfectly as either. So I'm going to go ahead and get my board set up here and meet you guys back here to get started. The two samples I have sitting here are the completed bracelet and the step that we need to take before we can complete it and pop the 6mm beads into it. So this chain here has pockets running all down it, and each one of these pockets has a band of seed beads running across our outer circle here in two directions, and they're crisscrossing each other, so that if I grip those two bands and pull them apart, I've now formed a nice little pocket there that has just the right amount of space in it to pop one of my 6mm beads into. So to get started making the base here and making this a line of pockets, we're going to pick up some seed beads in the following pattern. I need 5 of my A color and 2 of my B color. And then I'm going to pick up 3 more repeats of this pattern. So 5 of my A and 2 of my B. A and 2B, I have 3 repeats here, so I need 1 more. And after I've got all 4 of those repeats done, I can loop this around on itself, and I'm going to take my needle and run it through the first 7 beads that I picked up, which was that first set or that first repeat in my pattern. And you can see how my outer circle here is going to look exactly like the outer circle that I have here in my first pocket. I'm going to use my 4 anchor points here in my B color as my beginning and end anchor points for the bands that I'm going to create crisscrossing this circle. So coming out of the second set of my second B colored seed bead here, I'm going to pick up 2 of my B color, and I'm going to take my needle and run it through that first anchor point. So now I've got my second set sitting right next to my first set. I'm going to take my needle and run it down through that second set that I've added, and I'm going to pick up 1 more set. I'm going to take my needle and run it down through that second set again, and this is just going to loop my thread around so that my third set is going to sit next to that second set. And this is basically just a ladder stitch that I'm doing. So my needle coming out of the bottom of my second set here, I'm going to jump over to my third set and run up through those beads. Pick up another set of 2 of my B and loop around here and go back through that third set. Take my needle and run it down through that fourth set. Pick up a 5th set, loop around here so that my 5th set here is now going to be sitting right next to my 4th set. And I'm going to run up that 5th set. And so now I've got this little band of seed beads that is sticking out like a little arm off the side of my initial circle. And I have 5 sets of 2, including my anchor point. I'm going to take this band and cross it to the anchor point directly on the opposite side of my circle. And I want my top and bottom beads of my B color to line up. I'm coming out the bottom of my B beads here, so I'm going to come from the bottom up through that anchor point, and I'm just going to attach these beads in my anchor point just as if I were attaching or picking up 2 new beads. And I'm going to run back up through my anchor point and through the next 5 beads. And I can go through the next 2 beads, which should be the anchor point for my next band. And continuing to work in a ladder stitch, I'm going to add 4 more sets of my bee color seed bead. So working in a ladder stitch, I've added 4 sets of my bee bead. So I now have a total of 5 sets. And I'm going to cross this over. So now my bands are going to cross over one another. And I'm going to align my band here and the last set that I picked up with the 2 in my anchor point, and attach to my anchor point. And I'm just treating these beads in that anchor just as if they were 2 beads that I picked up to add in my ladder stitch. I'm going to come back up through those anchor point beads, and I'm going to pass through the next 3 in my outside circle. So this is going to be our first pocket here. I have my thread coming out of the 3rd bead after my anchor point, and now I'm going to add my 2nd pocket. So for the 2nd pocket and every other pocket that you add after this, your pattern is going to be just slightly different. Instead of picking up 5 of our A color, we're going to start by picking up 2, and then we're going to pick up 2 of our B color. Now we're going to pick up 5 of that A color, another 2 of that B, 5 of the A, another 2 of our B, and another 5 of our A, 2 more of our B, and now just another 2 of our A color again. And once we've got this line of seed beads on our string, we can take our needle and run it back through this 3rd seed bead here after our anchor, the one that my thread should be coming out of. And when I pull tight, I'm going to have a circle created, just like the first circle that I created to do my first little pocket here. I'm going to continue around the circle, and I don't need to go very far, but I'm going to continue around until I'm coming out that 2nd of bead in my anchor point here. And just like I did on the first pocket, I'm going to work in a ladder stitched band, and I'm going to add 4 sets of my B color. So I've now added 4 sets of my bead color for a total of 5, including that anchor point. And I can cross this to the other side of my circle and attach this band to my anchor point. Run back up through my anchor point, and I can continue through all the beads in that outside circle until I pass through the next anchor point. And I'm going to continue with my ladder stitch and create the second band in this pocket. So now that I've got my second little band here completed, I'm going to crisscross my project, crisscross my circle here, and attach to that last and open anchor point. After I've gone through my last anchor point here, I'm going to continue through the next 3 seed beads. And now I'm ready to pick up the beads that I need to create that second circle. That will be the base for my second pocket here. So I'm going to begin with 2 of my A color seed bead, pick up 2 of my B color, 5 of my A color, 2 of my B, 5 of my A, 2 of my B, another 5 of my A, another 2 of my B, and then this time just 2 more of my A. And I'm going to cross through this seed bead here, this third seed bead. And now I've got myself set up to add the bands on my third pocket here. And I'm going to continue to work the bracelet down the whole length that I'm going to need it to be. And I'm going to show you here on this sample that I have worked a little bit farther. The top bands that you're creating here should be zigzagging back and forth. So if you can see fairly well here in the video, I've got my top band here, and then I've got my second band here in the next cage over, crossing up diagonally to the top, and then I've got the next one crossing diagonally down to the bottom, and then up to the top, and then up to the bottom. So they're just going to zigzag back and forth. And if I flip it over, you'll see that on the back side, it's also doing the same thing. They're all just zigzagging back and forth. So you just want to be consistent with how you cross them over your loops or over your cages and pockets there. I'm going to be back in a minute here and show you how to take your finished cage and add your 6mm seed beads into it and to get this lovely finished product. You're going to work this flat chain of pockets until you have enough to complete the length that you need for your wrist, or if you're doing a necklace, however long you want to make the necklace. And a good rule of thumb, in case you're wondering how to judge that, is 2 pockets for every inch that you need your project to be. You cannot simply hold up this flat piece to your wrist because it's going to actually shrink up once you add the 6mm beads to it. And if I hold this up for comparison here, you can see that my first 2 pockets here and my first 2 pockets of my finished bracelet are significantly different. So we want to make sure that we use that rule of thumb and create 2 pockets for every inch that you need of length in your project. So once I've got the appropriate number of pockets, and for me that's 14 because I want a 7-inch bracelet, I'm going to have my thread in position here, just as if I were to add another pocket here. And what I'm going to do is just add a loop of seed beads to be one end of my clasp. And I'm going to pick up about 28 seed beads. So I believe I actually picked up 29. You're going to need at least 28 seed beads to fit around the last ball of your completed piece here. And then I'm going to take this line of seed beads and I'm going to run my needle back through that 3rd bead after my last anchor point there. And again, this is just very similar to adding another section here if I were to add another pocket. But all I'm going to do to this is just run back through all of these beads to reinforce them, since this will be my clasp. And cross through that seed bead there in the center again. Now I'm ready to start putting my 6mm beads into their little pockets. I want to pull each one of the bands here apart, and I should be able to just pop my 6mm bead inside that little pocket. And I'm going to go ahead and just do this down the whole length of the bracelet. Oops. These guys are very slippery. And you can see I've got 3 of them added in here. And I'm going to continue, I'm going to do that down the whole length of the bracelet. and then I will show you how to finish this up and just hold them in place. Once I have my beads added to all of the pockets, I want to run some thread through them so that they're not just able to turn any which way, and they could also easily fall out. So what I want to do is take my needle and thread here, and I want to have my thread coming out at the base here. I want to go through these first 2 seed beads here, and I want to have my thread coming out between these first 2 seed beads in my loop and before one of my anchor points here. I'm going to turn my bead around until I can find the hole, and I'm going to take my needle through that hole in the bead, and here at the other side of my bead, I'm going to take my needle and run it through the 2 11s here that are going to be next to my anchor point, and I'm going to cross through the 4 beads that make up 1/2 of this X connecting the 2 pockets. So I'm crossing through 2 11s, through that center 11, and through the next 2 11s, crossing on one diagonal of that X. And pull tight. I'm going to find the hole of my bead, pass through my bead, and I'm going to flip my project here, so I'm now at the other side of my bead, and I'm going to cross through again diagonally through 1/2 of that X. So you can see here I've crossed through my bead, and then I've crossed through this line of seed beads here through one of the crisscrosses in my X. And the hole in my next bead is right here, so I'm going to cross through that. And turn my project. And I'm going to go through this next line of seed beads in my X. And I'm going to continue doing this down the whole length of the bracelet just to make sure that I've got all of those 6mm beads with a thread running through them and holding them and connecting them to the rest of the pocket. So I've got my first 3 here held in place. And I'm going to just continue working down the length of the bracelet here, crossing through my beads and crossing through, crossing diagonally through the X connections here between each one of my pockets. And then when I get to the end, I'm just going to tie off my thread and my project will be complete. After working down the whole length of my bracelet and adding my thread here, running through all of my 6mm beads, coming out the last hole here, and all I'm going to do is simply just tie off my thread here. So I'm going to just take my thread through these seed beads that I have here at the top, and that will anchor my 6mm there to the end, and just run my thread through these beads. And I'm going to do a couple little knots here as I go. Cut off my extra thread, and now you can see I have my completed bracelet, and it is exactly the same length as my sample bracelet here, so you can see how much that did shrink up. And to clasp this, all I'm going to do is just use my last pocket and ball as the clasp. So you can see it's a very easy bracelet to make, and it puffs up quite a lot, so it's a very nice 3D effect, and with those cages running around the beads, it has a really pretty look to it. So I hope you guys have fun making it, and thanks for watching.